just won from Stupid Town? Man, how am I supposed to figure out what she's about if she won't even speak to me?
You horse around long enough, you'll understand.
Thanks, European wild horse. Hello, chat. V0.8 is out, which means there's gonna be more archives. This is good. This means there's more lore things that are in the archives, which means more things to talk about. Last time I was only right about Ohio, by the way. Everything else was wrong. So, but this one's right. This one's right though. This one's right. As I'm saying this, I don't know what's going on. I need to get warmed up. So to get warmed up, I'm going to tell you something I know is true for a fact. Roll credits. Hello, chat. I am currently in the basement of Eastwood General Hospital. You can see here that there is goop on the floor. This is the goop that leads into Mr. Malone's evil basement laboratory from this cage. So this is where the one incident started. Yeah, the one incident. It's not the eye incident. And here on the wall over here, we can see the culprit. We have a little symbol for the one incident, and then this silly little guy. But we know what this silly little guy is. One of John's tapes is labeled Mauser EX02 the Jellyfish. I am inclined to believe that this jellyfish graffiti is the same jellyfish as the jellyfish that Mauser created in his evil basement. Call that a stretch. I just think they're related. But how does a jellyfish walk though? Or like, how does a cage contain it? I don't really know. It's probably some freaky human DNA stuff. But another thing is that it's labeled EX02, not EX01. This is the second experiment. So, who was the first? The Watchers are a dedicated aura farming group of an unknown amount of entities. They have specific targets that they go after while seeming to leave bystanders alone. I'm gonna drop a crazy statement out here, but I think the Watchers are the good guys. Their known targets are all people that have been known to mess with things they should not be messing with. Kenneth, Malone, Misty, Dr. Mauser, Speedrunner. For context, in the Hidden High School document, it discusses pureblood slashers and Soulweaver spawns. Soulweaver spawns are weird. It involves the usage of the power of 9 to reanimate something that is not, well, animate. This includes the street and Borgmeyer. Yeah, in the hidden Delta file, it confirms that he is animated with a soul. Although I believe this is from the workers at the Delta facility rather than somebody we know. It seems that the Watchers are specifically angry about people doing this soul weaving. Kenneth Malone is, well, you know, John Bad Guy. He made Abominat, Dolphin Man, Princess, and according to the HQ board, he also made the Deity, but I think they're just related. I don't think he made it. It seems he only started dabbling in souls later when his colleague Dr. Mauser discovered how to do it. Mauser did most of the soul weaving. He was involved in making all of the street, presumably Elmer being his first, as the death was grisly and dismembered the body everywhere. Sid, I'm assuming, was the final member to be brought back, although we don't know about Large Chicken. he was gunned down and then had IX carved into his body, which is much cleaner than having every bit of his body dismembered. So his skill improved at this art. Mauser also seemed to be the leader of the two in this arrangement, as Mr. Malone is using Mauser's papers as a base for the research. However, Mauser had limits. He set himself boundaries with how far he would go, but Mr. Malone did not, and he went a little digging around things he shouldn't.
This is Jeff, and I'm afraid I must ask you to stop what you've been doing. Genetic bioengineering is something I can definitely help you out with and encourage you to pursue, but you have gone too far off track, so to say. Whatever it might be, you are not welcome to peer into it. There are entities out there that will make you a target if you ever try to do so. They let me be for the time being, but if you were to alert them again, they would be sure to come back for me. I simply choose to refer to it as the Weave. You do not want to meet the agents.
Presumably, Mauser stopped his experiments once the Watchers politely knocked on his door and asked him to stop.
Good morning!
Kenneth Malone, however, did not seem deterred, and he continued to poke at the Weave for his soul weaving. This leads to him drawing the attention of the Watchers around when Seven was beginning fertilization.
But as long as those men don't know where I am, I can't afford to leave now. Besides, the 7th specimen is almost ready to be born, I'd say. I sure wonder if those guys will come back from my ass right as number 7 matures. It's like they can smell my babies somehow.
Mr. Malone is also never confirmed to be dead. He's also another disappearance. The house is actually in relatively good condition, so I don't believe they ever made their way inside. And the board on the HQ suggests his disappearance is related to the Deity, but, you know, that doesn't help explain much. Misty is a special case where we actually know all the events that happened, or, like, most of them. We can fill in the blanks. Misty was deployed alone, willingly, to recover the crumpled up body of Melgore Johnson, along with the mannequin surrogate that were dropped into Deity territory, in hopes that he would fiddle with it and bring back our boy.
The investigation of and the body of Mr. Melgore Johnson has officially concluded. Miss was able to return, but sustained major injuries to the throat and larynx. Luckily, her jugular vein was left unscathed, but she is yet to regain the ability to breathe using her trachea, and her doctors are unsure whether or not she will ever be able to use her voice again. Miss was very shaken, but she was able to give a simple account of what had happened. The body of Mr. Johnson was missing, and the surrogate mannequin was able to be recovered. On its chest, the numeral 9 had been engraved, most likely by the Deity. When asked about if the injuries she sustained were caused by the Deity, she denied, then drawing a simplistic sketch of a pair of glasses and a hat.
There was more to that file, but I left some of it out for a later time. Anyways, why Misty went in alone here, I do not know. As far as I'm aware, she didn't have to. It's possible she just wanted to be awesome, or Mel was a friend and she wanted to do it personally out of respect. I do not know. Second of all, the Watchers intervened in an attempt to kill Misty for dabbling with 9 shenanigans, but again, they don't seem to be after the experiments themselves, which is really weird. They only wanted Misty rather than Mel. I'd also like to take the time to explain that the Watchers, every single map has had some form of 9 involvement, which seems to be why they're actually at the maps themselves. They're investigating. Presumably, Misty is forced to wear this mask because she'd be recognized instantly by the Watchers because they had their little scrap. Also, they're very chill with us volunteers, like, surprisingly so. In order to actually get chased by them, you need to hang around for a very long time, do objectives, or just, like, start trying to touch them. They also deemed the members of the Drivers United group non-threats and let them go after they investigated Mauser's house. They do not care if you happen to stumble into what they're doing, but they do care if you're overstaying your welcome or you're fiddling with their crime scene. Okay, enough giving you a history lesson. Let's get schizophrenic. You want your lore slop, Manty? Here's your lore slop. So, we know Dr. Mauser pulled up to the Malone estate and was removed from being alive. We, however, do not know what they did with his body. Presumably, he may have even died right there as he got out of his car, which means Mr. Malone, who was staying in the farmhouse during the stakeout, could have made a quick dash and brought his body in before being seen.
These fucking agents. No matter where I go, they always come right for my ass every single time. But I'm almost there. I'm so close. Last one left. Just one. That damned Church of Westwood has got to do it. Those freaks will understand. But I need to get back to the farm first. Those goddamned agents better not be waiting for me. Sorry, Mauser. Looks like you can't rest in peace. I got one last thing you can help me with, son.
It's possible that Mr. Malone did something with Mauser's corpse to turn him into the Speedrunner, an ultimate distraction for the Watchers, which would allow him to escape. 4 Watchers constantly pursue him, meaning they seem to recognize that this is someone they're after, or that is something unnatural that must be removed. You can also see what appears to be regular human skin on his body, suggesting that this creature is painted on rather than just being green and white naturally. There's a smile carved into his stomach, and we know Mr. Malone did marking carving before with Sid. It may even be possible that the mask was a similar case to Misty, a mask to hide his immediate identity from the Watchers. Great, you got all that? Okay, well this theory is not true. There's Swiss cheese of plot holes. First of all, why would they give Speedrunner a mask if the whole point is that he's supposed to be conspicuous? Why would you hide the identity of something? You want to have their identity known to the people who don't like the identity of the person they're chasing. Second of all, he wasn't at the farm. He says, when I get to the farm, or something. I don't know. I'm not actually reading it right now. But he's not at the farm. So if Mr. Mauser here died at the front door, he couldn't just step out and grab it. Third of all, the Westwood cult apparently made the Speedrunner, or at least they did whatever they did to Mauser's body, so it wasn't Mr. Malone. Fourth of all, you don't need experience in carving stuff into people's bodies to make a smiley face in the chest. I personally have done a lot of mutilation to corpses in my time, and I have not been involved with the Power of 9, so I don't know. This is like when I said Jimsy Bringer's Vapabui, you know? Just a little, hee you know? Post-editing B here, also remembered this part of Speedrunner's file that literally says that he isn't related to Kenneth Malone. It's in the fine print. Or at least they say he doesn't appear to be, so maybe he is and they just didn't see it. But I feel like that was placed there on purpose so you would know he was not made by Mr. Malone. Whatever. According to Trollge's Unseen file, the explanation for the creature's lowered power compared to what we'd see him in in-game, compared to his normal file, is presumed to be an injury that it received at some point.
From what we have observed, it can be noted that this entity's powers and abilities seem to be weakening over time. From soaring over the city and summoning a downpour of blood rain, to simply stumbling around through forests aimlessly, snapping its head towards every minor noise or movement it can sense. It could be noted that the decrease in its mobility seemed to occur quite suddenly, and seemed to have occurred between June and October of 1994. In every subsequent sighting of the creature, it seemed to have trouble walking, often very slowly limping from place to place. The initial hypothesis that the powers of the Trollge entity are gradually weakening over time has been contested due to the nature of the sightings. It could be more possible that it sustained some kind of injury, leaving it impaired.
It's possible that this injury is due to Misty. One of her quests, retrieve a knife from Trollge's back, involved retrieving a huge knife from his back. It's possible that at some point, during one of Trollge's rampages, she was able to strike it with the blade. But this doesn't really work in the timeline. This sudden disappearance in his full power happened between June and October 1994, and Misty was employed way after that date. Also, I'm pretty sure the file would have mentioned they see a giant knife in his back, so this knife may be a recent thing done by either her or some upstanding citizen of the world. Maybe I gotta stop making theories just to make theories, because these are both wrong. Unless the first one's right somehow, but I don't think so. So, if you remember way back, the purebloods and the soulweaver spawns, the soulweaver spawns being slashers made by humans tempering with their power of 9 to make their own little creatures. The purebloods, however, just appear. There's no previous record, there's no proof that they existed before they started existing, they just poofed. I believe the slashers under the pureblood category are as follows: Baba Booey, Trollge, the Beast, and maybe Thirsty and Speedrunner. Big maybe. One seemingly common attribute of all purebloods is they have some form of supernatural power. Baba Booey has the ability to turn invisible and place his weird little clone guys. The Beast has electromagnetic powers, or whatever the hell you call it. You know, the Screech. Trollge, Now, Thirsty and Speedrunner don't have explicit supernatural powers, if any at all. I think the lore file for Thirsty genuinely suggests it's just Australian wildlife, which is really funny. But Speedrunner shares a characteristic that the purebloods also seem to all share. I'm going to read off a big chunk of the first part of Igor's unseen quick escape file, as a lot of its info is extremely relevant here. What we've decided to differentiate as the pureblood slashers are much more of a mystery to us than we would like to admit. We can describe every minute detail of their body, we can observe and perfectly log each of their behavioral tendencies, and yet, we cannot ascertain where they came from. That's the one thing which makes a slasher pure-blooded to us. The mere fact that no matter how hard we try, we can never discover where that creature came from. All of them seem to have something quite specific in common. Every trace and sign of their activity and danger appeared suddenly. The visitors of the campground, where first sightings of the Phantom were reported, all claimed to have witnessed him around the same exact day, in August of '88. It's as if the creature simply manifested itself at that campground at that very date. A few years later, the Beast sighting in Tennessee. The monster simply appeared one night howling and screeching before stalking about the town, with absolutely zero sightings preceding this incident in places near Brookville. Need I mention the Watchers, who are simply characterized by appearing out of nowhere? And one final piece for Beast's unseen file. Most, or rather just about all of the first sightings of slashers labeled purebloods have occurred in the same rough time frame between the years 1988 and 1995. Sightings still occur even to this day, but at a much reduced rate than in the years outlined, and they all began with the sighting of the Phantom at the Michigan campsite. Keeping this in mind, I must now state that the period of time in which Jeffrey Mauser was active in the pursuit of genetic bioengineering and experimentation, involving creating life which is not linked to the purebloods, is between 1986 and 1989, and we already know that his disappearance had taken place sometime in late 1989. That second file is more so set up for something later, but still keep it in mind. It seems that purebloods started forming rapidly after humans stopped making their own stuff with the souls and the power of 9. Now, I know that first file suggested that the Watchers were purebloods, but I don't think this is true. I think there's some third weird category.
When it clicked. We must have pissed our pants so damn hard at Mauser's house that we all completely forgot that we've seen the tall old men before, at the campsite where the smoky phantom creature stalked about. That's when it all came back to me. Back then, we were never able to get a close enough look at all of them. All we saw was their silhouettes in the fog, but I was damn sure they must have been the same old men. From what it seemed to me, they seemed to be looking for the smiling phantom man, but hell if I know.
So it would seem that the Watchers are after either Baba Booey specifically, but I believe it's more likely that they're after the pureblood slashers themselves. Yep, we're back to the Watchers. It's all Watcher. Now, time to talk about something that isn't the Watchers.
The investigation of and the body of Mr. Melgore Johnson has officially concluded. Miss was able to return, but sustained major injuries to the throat and larynx. Luckily, her jugular vein was left unscathed, but she is yet to regain the ability to breathe using her trachea, and her doctors are unsure whether or not she will ever be able to use her voice again. Miss was very shaken, but she was able to give a simple account of what had happened. The body of Mr. Johnson was missing, and the surrogate mannequin was able to be recovered. On its chest, the numeral 9 had been engraved, most likely by the Deity. It would seem that Miss Roberts has come in close contact with the Deity. After being asked to describe what it had looked like on pen and paper, she was only able to write out one jittery word: God. When asked about if the injuries she sustained were caused by the Deity, she denied, then drawing a simplistic sketch of a pair of glasses and a hat.
He thought talking about the Watchers was only for one day. He mad! Anyways, on to stuff that we know about the Deity. First of all, its powers are highly likely, but not limited to, human soul transmutation, teleportation, telepathy, and long-distance clairvoyance. Human soul transmutation is likely to be the power of 9. The IX symbol that is being carved in bringing things back to life, or more specifically, the soul weaving itself. The other powers are interesting. There's teleportation, which is self-explanatory, but then there's telepathy and long-distance clairvoyance. Telepathy is a strange power to have, as I don't think there's a record of anyone being spoken to by the Deity. It's possible that the Deity speaks to things it creates. Long-distance clairvoyance is also very interesting word choicing, which I believe may be referencing the Watchers, especially if we consider telepathy. As we know, the Watchers are able to communicate with each other telepathically. It's also possible that the long-distance clairvoyance is straight up the ability of the Watchers. If you get out of sight of the Watcher, he will still know where you are for up to 14 seconds. This may literally be long-distance clairvoyance. You could make the argument that long-distance clairvoyance is just them watching, but I don't know if clairvoyance is required to see somebody, so, time to drop something spicy. I think Igor is literally the Deity having fun with this world. His two extra powers, teleportation and human soul transmutation, are aspects of Igor. He teleports from place to place when you find him, and human soul transmutation is a little harder to pin down, but I believe him creating fuel out of thin air is actually him turning souls into fuel. The blue sparkle particle effect that we see when he creates something is the same particle effect we see when he destroys something. It's possible that he literally strikes a balance. He creates things with the things he destroys, and so on. Speaking of balance, it's time to talk about the Watchers again! So, the Watchers' targets. They don't mind Soul Weaver spawns, but they mind the people who create Soul Weaver spawns. They do mind pure blood slashers, and they also pursue them. Plus Speedrunner. Maybe he is just a pure blood. Now, important dates. I would have added this to the pure blood section, but I forgot this file existed until now, but it's relevant now, so here it is. Most of the pure blood slashers occurred in the rough time frame of 1988 to 1995. They still occur outside of this range, but they're at a much reduced rate. Jeffrey Mauser was active in his pursuit of genetic bioengineering and experimentation between 1986 and 1989, and disappeared in late 1989. Now, I know this file said Jeffrey Mauser disappeared, but I'm gonna assume Kenneth Malone disappeared sometime shortly after this, And if so, I believe I know what's going on here. So we know Kenneth Malone disappeared due to the Deity, but I believe what happened was these disappearances were caused by them poking too much at the weave, and eventually, a creature of great power took notice. The Deity. The Deity, realizing that this world exists, started becoming much more involved. We know the Deity has the power to create things such as reanimating Mel's body with the power of 9, and we know that humans are able to use this power of 9 to create their own things, the Soul Weave responds. It's possible that these pure-blood slashers are the Deity just creating things on its own, a much cleaner, nicer process than the sloppy things that the humans create. This suggests that the Weave is much more than a place where you can just harness the power of souls. I believe the Weave is literally a separate dimension, or at least a different world, where these creatures are coming from. The Watchers may serve the Weave by maintaining a balance of things that meddle with it. The agents of the Weave, the Watchers, maintain the balance of the Weave by killing or removing anything that is disrupting it. They do not mind Soul Weave Respawns, as Soul Weave Respawns use souls that used to exist, and as such, nothing is really created from nothing. They do, however, mind the people who create the Soul Weave Respawns, as they are meddling with the power of the Weave. They seem to mind the pure blood slashers because it's possible that they are created literally from nothing. The Deity is some bored trickster god, and the Watchers are tired of cleaning up the mess. Now you may be wondering, hey, if they're so mad about the Deity messing with the balance of the Weave, why don't they go ask the Deity to stop? Let me ask you my own question. How would you kill the Deity? The answer is, however you do it, you can't. The Watchers, presumably, are not strong enough. They can kill human beings just fine though, except for Misty, she's goated apparently. The injury on Trollge mentioned before may have actually instead been a battle with the Watchers, and the knife was just a coincidence. We know that Trollge is likely a pureblood, and as such the Watchers would want to get rid of it. However, Trollge's listed powers are extraordinary, and the Watchers don't have much to their own. It's possible that they got into a scrap and injured Trollge at least, and are at least just waiting for it to get weaker to strike again. And reiterating an earlier point, they do not mind us volunteers, until we mess with them. We are not involved with the Weave directly, and as such, they don't care. I'm going to backtrack a little bit to a different point, the human soul transmutation. I believe the Death Wards that we know are Deity artifacts may actually be a storage for human souls the Deity uses when it's oh so full. When you die, you spend the soul inside of the Death Ward, and in exchange for your soul not being taken, the soul in the Death Ward gets taken instead. The babies were created by SlashCo in a weird attempt to meddle with souls, and it's a similar process to the Death Ward. When you use the baby, it spends the soul inside and teleports you elsewhere. Teleportation, power of the Deity. Anyways, in the Death Ward file, I literally just noticed this. It describes the following. They explained about a vivid feeling they felt while holding onto the skull. According to them, they felt as if their very soul was being intently watched, and as if something was pulling their spirit towards a faraway place. Now, this is a reach of all reaches, but I think this wording is really interesting. Being intently watched, haha, watcher reference, but being pulled to a faraway place may be referencing literally feeling yourself being pulled into the Weave. Another thing, in Igor's unseen file, it says, not only do we not know where it came from, we do not even know what it truly looks like. So we know Igor does not look like Tyler the Creator all the time. More proof that the Deity just decides to change into Tyler the Creator because it's funny. This is confirmed by the devs, by the way. It literally just thinks it's funny to be Tyler the Creator. That was a lot of yapping. I have one more thing to share with you guys, and I think this is the biggest of all of them.
know the drill. Get the files, prepare the gens, I'll get the go-ahead to come around and pick you up.
His desk, it kind of looks like a giant penis.